and a very warm welcome on today's Page 1. I am Nancy Bora and I am joined by my colleague Adrika Sharma today, and we are essentially going to talk about all the latest development that has happened in the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas as the tensions have escalated because now the conflict has entered day 6 and airstrikes are still continuing. Stay tuned with us while we delve into the details of the latest development of the Israel-Hamas conflict. Well, the latest coming in from Israel is that Israel has launched airstrikes in Gaza, with Hamas stating that they are still fighting outside the enclave. Israel has also agreed to a unity government as the war with Hamas intensifies. Casualty figures are being reported on both the sides, and the latest that we have on the death toll that we have coming in from Israel is 1,200, with Hamas media reporting that electricity outages in Gaza due to the power station running out of fuel. Israel has deployed its military around Gaza, and the conflict has raised concern of dehumanization and potential genocidal actions. In the midst of this, Hamas is launching another barrage of rockets at various Israeli areas. Turkey's President Erdogan has criticized Israel's response as a massacre, and several countries including Germany, France, Norway and Sweden are evacuating their citizens from Israel. Tragically, 4 Palestinian paramedics were killed in Gaza during strikes and shelling. The United States is in talks with Israel and Egypt to ensure the safe passage of Americans and other civilians out of Gaza and an expected rise in the American death toll. Adrika, that is the latest that we have coming in from Israel. 1,200 people are already dead, more are reporting. Airstrikes are still continuing. The war the battle is getting intense with every day passing. It's the day 6 of the conflict that has been going on for so long. What are you picking up latest from the newspapers?
So basically, I'm going to read here what the Tribune, the daily newspapers that we have in front of us, have in store for us. And the Tribune is reporting that the death toll in the Hamas strike and Israel's incessant bombing of Gaza for the past 72 hours have crossed 2,400 by the end of Wednesday evening, with both sides claiming an equal number of dead, including women, children and elderly. The Israeli military said over 1,200 persons, including 155 soldiers, has been killed since October 7, and 150 soldiers and civilians were taken hostage. So the number here is constantly rising. We do not know where the death toll shall stop, and there are a lot of new perspectives that are panning out for the entire international dialogue to be framed around. There is talks for the fact that the Israeli government had a total intel failure. I was just reading a report from the CNBC in the morning, and it said how the Israeli government did go through an intel failure is because Hamas has been quite active even in 2023. We've had past attacks just few months ago, and there were talks and there were actions that perpetrated the fact that there will be an attack and it will be a huge scale one. So a lot of updates coming in. The death toll for now for Gaza stands at 2,400, whereas the Israeli military has reported that over 1,200 people have died, and all of that also includes women and children. So every passing day, the death toll and the casualties that are being reported, it just turns more saddening. Now the images of the moment when a new barrage of rockets were fired from the Gaza Strip into Ashkelon. So the visuals that the viewers might be getting on their screens are the images of the moment when new barrages of rockets were fired from the Gaza Strip into Ashkelon. Israel kept pounding Hamas targets in Gaza, where the entire city blocks lay in rubble as Wednesday, its soldiers sweeping battle-torn southern towns found more victims 5 days after the Islamist militant group onslaughted. So the updates that are coming in stands at the fact that now Israel is also continuously pounding Hamas targets in Gaza, and likely so. I mean, the retaliation was definitely expected, and Israel is coming out at a strong front, and Israel is giving it back with the same intensity. The visuals on your screens are of the images the exact moment where new barrages of rockets were fired from the Gaza Strip into Ashkelon.
I mean, definitely the visuals that we are seeing on our screens, it shows the tremor, the horror that is unfolding in the city of Gaza, in the city of Ashkelon. Both of the sides, they are, trying to retaliate, trying to attack, trying to be offensive right now. And this is the day 6 of the ongoing conflict. I mean, Hamas side, the Gaza side is been firing and retaliating the attacks of the Israeli airstrikes. Adrika, the situation seems to get worse. The tension seems to escalate even further. So, to counter that, to provide a solution to what Israel can do, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he has called upon for the opposition to come together and form a unity government. The latest that we are getting on that particular angle is that Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and centrist opposition leader Benny Gantz have reached an agreement to establish an emergency unit government. This new government will form a war cabinet including Netanyahu, Gantz and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, focusing solely on the ongoing conflict with Hamas. In Gaza, it remains uncertain what will happen to Netanyahu's existing government partners, mainly far-right and ultra-orthodox parties. Observers like former IDF Chief of Staff Gadi Eisenkot and Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer may play a role. They might come in between, but their main role is to be as observers. So, Benjamin Netanyahu has called for an opposition unity government, and now it seems like the opposition leader and Benjamin Netanyahu, they are forming a government to tackle, to retaliate the Hamas attack that has been going on for the longest of time.
And I mean, this definitely comes after the fact that Israel has been going through a political turmoil that the world has already witnessed for the longest time. And now I'm going to read what the Hindu has been reporting about the unity government that Israel is going to come forward with. So the Hindu is reporting that as Israel kept bombing Hamas targets in the Gaza Strip on Wednesday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and political rival announced an emergency government for the duration of the conflict. The veteran right-wing leader was joined by centrist Benny Gantz, a former defense minister in the government and war cabinet, as both put aside bitter political divisions that have roiled the country and sparked mass protest. Their joint announcement came after Israel's soldiers sweeping battles-torn southern towns, and they have found 1,200 victims 5 days after the Islamist terrorist onslaught, the worst attack on Israel in the 75 years history. So amid this crisis, it has also been labeled as Israel's 9/11. So here what we are getting is that the government is coming forward to keep their own political ideologies aside, and they are coming forward to make sure that Israel gives it back to Gaza. Israel replies to the Hamas terrorists with the same intensity that they came forward with. So now moving on, these visuals are coming from Rafah, wherein emergency services rushed to site hit by Israeli strike in Rafah. Civil defense vehicles and ambulances rushed to the site of a building struck by an Israeli airstrike in the southern Gaza Strip. Israel continued its bombardment of targets in densely populated Palestinian enclave for the 5th consecutive day in response to Hamas's unprecedented attack. So the attack has been heavily called unprecedented. And you can see, the viewers can see how ambulance and medical help has been rushing to sites that has been bombarded, and casualties continue to rise. So it's almost like a continuous week almost for the Gaza Strip, wherein people are suffering. Now we can see that the Israeli artillery near the Sderot fires shells towards Gaza as bulldozers demolish what's left for Sderot's police station that was destroyed at the beginning of Hamas onslaught. So Nancy, what we did was that we covered when everything was, getting just into rumbles and shackles. We saw a national bank being into rumbles, and then we saw, of course,
there was a mosque as well.
Yes, infrastructure is just another collateral damage, but the loss of human life as well. It's almost like the entire region just now exists in smoke and just dozens of concretes lying down here and there with no sign of life.
Well, Adrika, you can see on the screen as well the visuals coming in. The Sderot police station, it has now turned into, it seems like it never existed, and the kind of damage that has been going on, and I mean it's going to escalate even further. But when you think about it, this is something that we do not wish upon, but we know that this is something that is also necessary, what the airstrikes that Israel has been doing, because as a country they have the right to defend themselves against terrorists, and they are the way they are attacking, the continuous airstrikes, that is escalating the matter, not just in Gaza but also in southern Israel as well, northern Israel as well. So the Lebanon border that we were talking about, the kind of situation that is unfolding is something it really it's horrific to see. It's a horror that is unfolding. But it's also interesting to see that how the war is now panning out, how both the sides are coming and like retaliating.
Like you rightly mentioned, Israel is doing a very rightful move by, like I've been saying, coming back at, the Hamas terrorist groups just by the same intensity, is because Israel has a history of political turmoil, and Israel does have a history of such, hostile and terrorist kinds of conflicts going now and then, because definitely all of us know about the Israel-Palestinian conflict and the war that has now escalated. So Israel is rightful in its action, and it is really a very good political move for a fact that now even the opposition leaders are coming together, because now Israel's integrity, I mean, definitely the human toll is too much, and the Israel government has in its dignity that it has to protect its citizens time and again. But I really like the fact that now the government is keeping aside all of its political negotiations, and now they are coming forward with the fact that Israel is now rightful in its position.
Well, it's just not the Israel that is getting international support. People are also protesting for the Palestinians that are being attacked in Gaza. A cross-section of South Africans took to the streets of Johannesburg, as you can see in the visuals, on Wednesday in support of the people of Palestine as the deadly conflict between Israel and the militant group Hamas continues. Some people said that they were joining in the protest to show solidarity with Palestinians who have faced decades of oppression. The demonstrations were organized by pro-Palestinian groups BDS, Boycott, Disinvest, Sanctions, which continues to call for the boycott of Israeli products, disinvestments and sanctions against the country. They were held as the Jewish community in South Africa also announced plans to hold prayer sessions and solidarity events this week in support of Israel. South Africa's government on Sunday called for an immediate cessation of violence between Israel and Palestine. As you can see, the pro-Palestinian protest that has been going on in South Africa, they are coming out and they are saying that Palestinians have and are suffering from decade-long of oppression from, whether it's Jewish or whether it's Israelis. And now, after the war that has happened, I think we have to, Adrika, take a look back and always think about the civilians that are, being targeted in this. Hamas has been taking hostages, and there are a lot of, other foreign nationals, other citizens. We were just reporting that the New York Times was reporting that according to the latest data that they have, at least 22 Americans are dead. So, this kind of situation, this war, this the call for peace is there, but it also divides the whole world into two sides. Some are going to support the Israelis, some are going to support the Palestinian, as you can see in South Africa as well. But Adrika, before we move on, we have a lot of global reactions coming in on the ongoing conflict. Let's listen in what they have to say.
There are moments in this life, and I mean this literally, when the pure, unadulterated evil is unleashed on this world. The people of Israel lived through one such moment this weekend. The bloody hands of the terrorist organization Hamas a group whose stated purpose for being is to kill Jews. This was an act of sheer evil. More than 1,000 civilians slaughtered, not just killed, slaughtered in Israel.
Terrorists like Putin or like Hamas seek to hold free and democratic nations as hostages, and they want power over those who seek freedom. The terrorists will not change, they just must lose.
France is also on the side of international law and peace, of which it is and will remain a staunch defender. Everything must be done to avoid escalation in the Middle East, to protect the civilian population and to prevent the Middle East from going up in flames. These unjustifiable terrorist attacks by Hamas must not distract us from search for a lasting peace and a political solution to the conflict.
Oh, well, that was some of the global reactions coming in. Zelensky came and he said that this is not acceptable. Biden has come out and he's saying that I'm actively going to support Israel in this. And so the global reactions, they are trying to support, because everybody is I think the underline here is that they don't support the war, but if we understand that the airstrikes that has been going through and the damages that they are doing is something also, important. That I would say, Adrika.
I mean, definitely, the world will now stand divided into two parts. Two parts, one part that feels that Israel is rightful in its stand to, kind of come forward and, avenge back with the same intensity, or at the other part of the world that will, kind of give a motivational factor, or the kind of world that stands divided to the fact that whatever the Hamas terrorist groups have been doing, or whatever operations that have been undergone by them are, successful for that matter. So I think definitely, and for another point of view that I really want to bring in, Nancy, is the fact that there's this new perspective, there is this new discourse that has been heavily talked about, is the fact that is there any hidden support that the Hamas terrorists or the entire Hamas organizations were aided for them to launch such an unprecedented attack? Even though the attack has been time and again been called as unprecedented or as a surprise attack, but the fact that Hamas could even sustain this attack for more than 5 days now. It is the 6th consecutive day today, right? And we can see the destruction is at a mass level. So a lot of international discourse on that level as well. So definitely there is a lot for the viewers, there is a lot for the entire world in the geopolitical landscape to understand now and see how this entire conflict will pan out in terms of geopolitical landscapes.
Well, definitely, Adrika, before we move on, we have an explainer coming in on what is the Al-Aqsa Mosque and what is the conflict and how is it important in the ongoing Israel-Palestinian conflict. Let's listen in to what is the significance of that mosque and how it impacts the ongoing conflict between Israel and Palestine.
So over the last 5 days, we've sort of decoded where is all of this happening. It's happening in southern Israel, the Gaza Strip, the north, the border with Lebanon, and of course all these major players of the Arab world on the periphery. We've also spoken about why it is so unprecedented. But what we haven't spoken about is why Al-Aqsa, which was actually the name of the entire operation of the Hamas, the Al-Aqsa typhoon, the Al-Aqsa flood, the Al-Aqsa mosque premises and the Temple Mount. Why is that at the heart of this particular crisis? We must understand the significance and importance of the Temple Mount and Al-Aqsa to really understand why this conflict is taking shape. Now, in the heart of Jerusalem's old city, the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound stands as a pivotal symbol in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, drawing global attention due to its profound significance and ongoing disputes. This sacred site, where Islam, Judaism, and Christianity converge, encompasses the iconic Dome of the Rock that you can see, revered by Muslims as the place where Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven. Now, the mosque derives its name from the Quran, referencing the mystical night journey of the Prophet to the Masjid Al-Aqsa, or the farthest mosque. For Muslims, Al-Aqsa ranks as the third holiest site after Mecca and Medina. In Christianity, its importance lies in its Old Testament associations. And simultaneously, it holds the utmost religious significance in Judaism, as it was the site of the two ancient Jewish temples, both destroyed first by the Babylonians and later the second one by the Romans. Now, according to Jewish beliefs, the Mount's destiny is to host a third temple to be constructed when the Messiah, a savior sent by God, arrives. The dynamics surrounding Al-Aqsa have changed dramatically in 1967, when Israel took control of the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, which includes East Jerusalem. A delicate status quo was established, allowing Muslims to pray while permitting others as visitors. However, this status quo has been repeatedly violated, most notably through recent arrangements enabling Jewish prayers at the Temple Mount. Now, tensions have often flared into standoffs and clashes, such as the Second Intifada in 2000 and the violent storming of the mosque by Israeli forces during Ramadan in 2021, which culminated in an 11-day conflict between Gaza and Israel. Has become a poignant emblem of their broader struggle, symbolizing their quest for sovereignty and religious freedom. This is why Al-Aqsa is very important in this particular conflict.
Moving on, our team has been deployed in the conflict-ridden area, bringing you a lots of grounds report for that, so you can understand the greater perspective of how the war is panning out. Take a look.
और इस समय sderot में है और एक बार फिर से यहाँ पर अटैक किए गए हैं। और अगर आप देखें कि अभी फोर्सेस के साथ में मौजूद थे जहाँ पर ये अटैक किए गए हैं, और देखिए कुछ जगहों को जिनको अटैक किया गया है वहाँ पर ही रेजिडेंशियल भी लोग बाहर आए हैं, और अभी मोटे तौर पर इस रेजिडेंशियल एरिया को टारगेट किया गया है। फोर्सेस के साथ हम यहाँ मौजूद है, कई मल्टीपल जगहों के ऊपर ये अटैक किए गए हैं। हालांकि कहाँ पर शेल गिरा है ये असेस करने की कोशिश की जा रही है। हम इस समय मौजूद हैं और देखिए अभी यहाँ के जो लोग हैं वो दिखाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। देखिए सड़कों पर और ऊपर आप देखें कि लोग अपने रेजिडेंशियल एरिया पे है और वो इशारा करके हमको बता रहे हैं कि देखिए उस तरफ अटैक हुआ है। और ये sderot का वो इलाका है जहां पर रॉकेट से कई जगहों पर मल्टीपल जगहों पर अटैक हुए हैं। देखिए सबसे पहले मैं कि आपको sderot में दिखा देता हूं, जिस घर के अंदर कई घरों के अंदर यहाँ रॉकेट गिरे थे। और देखिए जिस घर में मैं आपको लेकर जा रहा हूं ये वो घर है जहां पर अभी रॉकेट गिरा है, यानी यहाँ पर शेल अभी गिरा है। देखिए पीछे की तरफ इस इलाके से यहाँ पर ये शेल गिरा है। मेरे कैमरा पर्सन और मैं आपको दिखाएंगे, हम आपको अंदर भी लेकर जाएंगे घर में जहां पर हम अभी थोड़ी देर पहले यहाँ पहुंचे हैं। और देखिए यहाँ से अभी एक शेल आकर इनके इस एरिया के अंदर जाकर हिट किया, अगर मेरे कैमरा पर्सन आपको दिखा पा रहे हो। और यहाँ इस घर के अंदर कितना डैमेज हुआ है ये भी मैं आपको दिखा देता हूँ। देखिए क्योंकि sderot वो इलाका है जो बहुत करीब है खास तौर पर इन इलाकों में, और हमारी कोशिश यही है। देखिए जब मैं आपसे बात कर रहा हूँ तब भी मुझे बम्बारमेंट की आवाज़ लगातार सुनाई दे रही है, लगातार यहाँ पर शेल फायर किए जा रहे हैं। और अब से थोड़ी देर पहले मल्टीपल रॉकेट्स आगे गए थे sderot में, और इसी वजह से sderot के इन इलाकों के अंदर लगातार लोगों में दहशत है। देखिए इस घर के अंदर वो रॉकेट शेल आकर गिरे हैं, और अभी क्योंकि हम जब इस घर में आए तो उसकी एम्यूनेशंस की स्मेल हम महसूस कर सकते हैं। देखिए यहाँ पर वो डैमेजेस हुए हैं इस घर के अंदर, और ये लाइव डैमेजेस या फिर आप मैं कहता हूँ लाइव शेल मैं आपको दिखाता हूँ। देखिए ये है वो शेल्स जो लगातार इस जगहों पर आके पड़े हैं। देखिए ये आप देख पा रहे होंगे यही वो रॉकेट्स के शेल हैं जो इस घर को बर्बाद किया है। और अगर मेरे कैमरा पर्सन थोड़ा सा अंदर और आए और दिखाएं कि देखिए आपको नजर आएगा कि वो तबाही की मंजर या फिर तबाही की जो तस्वीरें हम आपको दिखा रहे हैं बिल्कुल sderot के इलाकों से, वो यही तस्वीरें हैं। और देखिए अगर आप दिखाएं कि क्या इस समय आलम है, किस तरीके से डैमेजेस हुए हैं, पूरा घर का पिछला हिस्सा तहस नहस हो गया है। और देखिए ये sderot, और अगर आप देखें तो आपको धुआं नजर आएगा, आपको एम्यूनेशन की स्मेल हम लोग यहाँ से महसूस कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि बहुत ज़्यादा इन इलाकों को क्षति पहुंची है प्रतिमा। और देखिए हर इलाके में क्योंकि जो लोकल्स हैं वो इसलिए यहाँ दहशत में रहते हैं क्योंकि कभी भी यहाँ पर इस तरीके के अटैक हो जाते हैं। और देखिए लगातार मैं और मेरे कैमरा पर्सन निशान जो हैं वो इन इलाकों में घूम रहे हैं, ना सिर्फ सderot के इलाकों में बल्कि आप कह सकते हैं कि जो दूसरे सदर्न इलाके हैं जहां पर सबसे पहले घुसपैठ की थी। और सderot इसलिए इंपॉर्टेंट है क्योंकि यहीं पर मैं आपको बार बार बता रहा हूं कि सderot में सबसे ज़्यादा इन्फिल्ट्रेशन पॉइंट से सबसे ज़्यादा घुसपैठ यहीं पर की थी। लोगों को स्टैंड पे, बस स्टैंड पे महिलाएं खड़ी थी 5-5, 6-6, उनको वहीं मार दिया गया, उनके गले काट दिए गए। जो मैस्केयर था, जो तबाही थी, वो यहीं पर हुई और इसी के बाद उन्होंने इसी जगह के पुलिस स्टेशन को हॉस्टेज के तौर पर इस्तेमाल किया। तो देखिए, हम लगातार सderot के इलाकों में, और दूसरी तरफ जो आप मेरे से दूसरा सवाल आप पूछ रही थी कि देखिए अभी क्या हालात हैं खासतौर पर इन इलाकों में और किस तरीके से जो IDF ने कहा वो बिल्कुल सही कहा, क्योंकि एक जो बर्बरता की गई शवों के साथ, लोगों के साथ, महिलाओं के साथ, वो निश्चित तौर पर डराने वाली है। और ये शायद हमास की कोशिश भी यही थी कि ऐसा कुछ किया जाए ताकि दहशत भर दी जाए इजराइल के लोगों में। लेकिन शायद इजराइल का एक कहते हैं कि उनका एक कॉन्सेप्ट है कि दे ऑलवेज बाउंस बैक। तो ये बाउंस बैक वाला जो सिचुएशन है या फिर जो अभी कंडीशन है वो इजराइल की है। और इजराइल इसलिए लगातार अभी गाजा पर ना सिर्फ अटैक कर रहा है बल्कि हमास के ऊपर भी ताबड़तोड़ हमले किए जा रहे हैं। सderot में यहाँ इस समय जहां पर अटैक हुआ है उस घर के लोगों को यहां से निकाला जा रहा है। देखिए, एक बुजुर्ग महिला को, सीनियर सिटीजन को यहां से निकाला जा रहा है। उनके पैर में भी शायद चोट लगी है, उनके पैर में भी। और देखिए, यहाँ से लोगों को हटाया जा रहा है। यहाँ पे अब से कुछ मिनटों पे जब हम यहाँ मौजूद थे तब ये अटैक हुआ। पूरे घर में आग लगी हुई है। लगातार जो फायर ब्रिगेड्स हैं वो यहाँ पर मौजूद है, वो लगातार यहाँ पर मौजूद है। आग पर काबू पाने का काम किया जा रहा है। कई जगहों पर सderot के अंदर इस तरीके से अटैक हुए हैं। फोर्सेज यहाँ ऑन ग्राउंड है। और लेकिन खास बात यह कि अभी भी यहाँ पर रह कर अटैक किए जा रहे हैं। और यहीं से बेहद करीब गाजा पट्टी है जहां पर बम्बारमेंट की जा रही थी, लेकिन उसी बीच हमास की तरफ से लगातार ये रॉकेट दागे गए। और देखिए, अब हम यहाँ पे आपको बता रहे हैं कि किस तरीके से अभी यहाँ से लोगों को यहाँ से लगाया जा रहा है। कुछ लोगों को चोटें भी आई हैं। यहाँ पर मैं आपको अपने कैमरा पर्सन के साथ चल के दिखाता हूँ कि देखिए, अभी यहाँ पर इस घर में योजा के शेल गिरा है। और महत्वपूर्ण यह है कि ना सिर्फ यहाँ पर बल्कि देखिए वहाँ पर भी काफ़ी ज़्यादा डैमेजेस हुए हैं। और देखिए, मैं आपको लगातार सderot के इलाके में हूँ जहाँ पर ये अटैक हुए हैं। और देखिए, लगातार अभी अगर आप देख रहे हो कि आपको नज़र आएगा कि कई गाड़ियों को डैमेजेस हुए हैं, कई शेल्स जो हैं, कई रॉकेट जो है यहाँ पर आकर गिरे हैं। वो अगर आप देखिए तो आपको शेल्स के स्प्लिंटर्स जो हैं वो आपको नज़र आ जाएंगे। और ये ऐसा हर दूसरी जगहों पर सderot के इलाके में हो रहा है। और मैं इस समय सderot में ही मौजूद हूँ। देखिए, इस घर को भी काफ़ी ज़्यादा नुकसान पहुँचा है। और उस घर में जो अगर आप आगे देख रहे हो तब वहाँ पर लगातार उस घर में आग लगी है जहाँ पर फायर ब्रिगेड्स की जो गाड़ियाँ हैं, जो फायर टेंडर्स, वो लगातार उस पर काबू पाने का काम कर रहे हैं। और हम आपको TV9 भारतवर्ष आपको लगातार इन इलाकों से रिपोर्ट कर रहा है जो इस समय गाजा पट्टी के बहुत करीब है। और यहाँ पर क्या सूरत हाल है ये आपको दिखाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। 2 लोग थे उस घर के अंदर जिनको चोटें आई हैं, जिनको ले जाया जा रहा था, एक बुजुर्ग महिला और एक और शख्स बताया जा रहा है जिसको वहाँ से हटाया जा रहा है। और अगर आप देखें कि अभी भी वहाँ पर काबू पाने का काम लगातार चल रहा है। We are right now at the place where the gunfight between the IDF and the Hamas militants took place. I just want to show you what exactly and how massive the fight is, because these are the, I'm very near to the, especially to the Gaza Strip, and this is around 3 to 4 kilometers from this, and I can then show you how exactly the Hamas militants have entered. Right behind me, this is the car which they have generally used when the Hamas militants entered, and you can see, my camera person can see, can show you exactly the bullets. You can see the bullets in the car, you can see the manuals, you can see the books of Hamas militant which are they using. This is the vehicle they have been using to enter at the various location, and they have been using RPGs, they have been using gun machines. And when IDF came into these locations, they first neutralized and they captured all these vehicles. You can see the bullet marks on the on all these vehicles, because when the encounter took place between both the parties, they have been neutralized. And you can see how well planned and they have well executed this, because the Hamas have a big plan, because they have come with a lot of water, the dry foods, the ratio, the food to eat. And you can see this is the RPG shells, these are the water bottles, they are the cutters they have been using to cut the wires, and especially the dry foods they have been using. You can see these are the dates which generally these countries have very common, but when I asked them, these are the water bottles which are available in the Gaza only. So this is not things which are available in the Israel. And you can see the glucose bottles, the ORS, the medical kit. You can see these are they have came with a very well planned things. This is the bandages. They have the water bottles, sanitizers, injections, syringe. So they have a very well plan. They wanted to come to this location. They wanted to neutralize. They wanted to hold up all these locations for a very long period. But the point is, they don't get that much of support from their from the back, so that they are not able to sustain for long. And you can see these are the multiple vehicles we have been targeted by the IDF, and they have captured all these vehicles. And we as a channel news network have been giving you up exclusive, super exclusive ground reports from the Gaza Strip, which are the main point or epicenter of this war. हम इस समय मौजूद हैं गाजा पट्टी के बेहद करीब, और मैं आपको बता रहा था कि आज हमने sderot के बाद अब रुख किया आगे का, और अब हम यहाँ पहुँच चुके हैं गाजा पट्टी के फर्स्ट लाइन ऑफ डिफेंस पर। और ये वो आर्टिलरी लोकेशंस है जहां से लगातार हमास को टारगेट किया जा रहा है। आप देखिए ये आर्टिलरी गन्स आपको मेरे पीछे नजर आ जाएंगी। आर्टिलरी गन्स ये करीब बताया जा रहा है कि ये सेल्फ प्रोपेल्ड आर्टिलरी गन्स हैं, और इनकी रेंज कई आर्टिलरी गन्स की करीबन 35 to 40 किलोमीटर्स की करीबन इनकी रेंज है। और इन जगहों को आप देखिए कि इसको इसलिए बनाया गया है क्योंकि जहाँ से आप धुआं उठता देख रहे हैं वो गाजा पट्टी है। देखिए मेरे कैमरा पर से निशान आपको दिखा पा रहे हो कि जहाँ पे धुएं के आपको गुबार नजर आ रहे हैं थोड़े थोड़े, वो सारे गाजा पट्टी के एरिया। और जब भी जरूरत पड़ती है ये आर्टिलरी गन्स यहाँ से फायर करती है। ऐसी मल्टीपल लोकेशंस बनाई गई हैं। मैं आपको एग्जैक्टली जगह का नाम नहीं बता सकता क्योंकि मुझे मना किया गया है, लेकिन फिर भी मैं आपको ये बता देता हूं कि हम गाजा पट्टी के बहुत करीब हैं। 4 से 5 किलोमीटर के पीछे का ये एरिया है जिसको फर्स्ट लाइन ऑफ डिफेंस बनाया गया है। और अभी अगर आप देखें तो आपको नजर आएगा कि कई मल्टीपल आर्टिलरी गन्स को यहाँ पे डिप्लॉय किया गया है। इनकी रेंज या फिर इनकी जो बैरल है उसके निशाने पर गाजा पट्टी है, यानी जब इनको गोहेड मिलता है ये फायर करते हैं। और अभी थोड़ी देर पहले इन्होंने फायर बंद किया है, लेकिन मैं आपको दिखाने की कोशिश कर रहा था कि आखिरकार इस समय किस तरीके के हालात हैं। और ये वो एरिया है जहाँ पे आईडीएफ की जो आर्टिलरी गन्स है, आर्मर्ड है, उनको तैनात किया गया है। मुझे बताया गया कि अभी कुछ और चीज़ों को दूसरी लोकेशन पे भी भेजा गया है। कई और ऐसी मल्टीपल जगह हैं जहाँ पर ऐसे आर्टिलरी गन्स को डिप्लॉय किया गया है। हमने आपको दिखाया था कि कैसे जो हमास के मिलिटेंट्स की तरफ से टारगेट किया गया था, लेकिन रिटेलिएटरी एक्शंस यानी रिकैप्चरिंग या फिर आप कह सकते हैं कि हमास के खिलाफ जो वॉर छेड़ी है इजराइल ने, वो अब किस तरीके से रुख लेती जा रही है, वो उसकी डिप्लॉयमेंट कैसी है। हम TV9 भारतवर्ष आपको पिछले कई दिनों से लगातार 2 दिनों से लगातार हम आपको इन लोकेशंस पे, मल्टीपल लोकेशंस पे दिखा रहे हैं। देखिए अब एक आप देखेंगे कि आगे आपको एक बार फिर जगह से धुआं उठता हुआ नजर आ जाएगा। मेरे कैमरा पर से निशांत अगर आपको दिखा पा रहे हो तो ये वही इलाका है जहाँ पे अभी थोड़ी देर पहले बताया जा रहा है कि इन रॉकेट से दागा इन आर्टिलरी गन से दागा गया था। और लगातार अपनी इस जगह की डिप्लॉयमेंट इस तरीके की रखी गई है इन्होंने कि कभी भी जब ज़रूरत पड़ेगी इनको दोबारा से अटैक करने के लिए तैयार हो जाएंगे। और आप देखेंगे शेल्स आप देख सकते हैं उनके, आप शेल्स भी देख सकते हैं। और उसके अलावा दूसरी जगह आप देखें कि कैसे इस पूरे एरिया को सिक्योर किया गया है। TV9 भारतवर्ष ऐसा पहला चैनल है भारत का जो यहाँ पहुँचा है और आपको ये सारी लोकेशंस इसलिए दिखा रहा है ताकि आप इनकी स्ट्रैटेजिक लोकेशन समझिए और आप ये भी समझिए कि आखिरकार हम जहाँ से रिपोर्ट कर रहे हैं वो कितना आगे का एरिया। ये वो एरिया है जो लाइन ऑफ फायर में है, यानी लगातार यहीं से सारी चीज़ों की मूवमेंट की जा रही है, यहीं से एक्शंस लिए जा रहे हैं। और इन्हीं पर कमांड सेंटर भी, मैंने आपको सुबह दिखाया था कि कैसे एक जगह पर हम कमांड सेंटर में पहुंचे थे और उसके बाद मैं अब आपको फर्स्ट लाइन ऑफ एक्शन या फिर फायर के पास लेकर आया हूँ जहाँ से आर्टिलरी गन्स का ये फायर किया जा रहा है। मैं इस समय sderot की सुपरमार्केट में हूँ और अगर आप मेरे पीछे देखेंगे तो आप देखिए पूरी गाड़ी को किस तरीके से रॉकेट ने अटैक किया था। यानी हमास के जो रॉकेट थे वो इस सुपरमार्केट पे भी गए थे। हालांकि बहुत दिन तक 2 दिन तक इसको बंद रखा गया, लेकिन जब रविवार के दिन इस पर अटैक किए गए और अब देखें कि ना सिर्फ रॉकेट से बल्कि कई जगह आपको दिखेगा कि स्प्लिंटर्स के जो आपको निशान है वो भी नज़र आएंगे। आपको इन गाड़ियों पर बुलेट्स के नज़र आ जाएंगे क्योंकि इन्हीं मार्केटों में हमास के जो मिलिटेंट्स थे वो इन्हीं इलाकों में लगातार अटैक कर रहे थे, रेजिडेंशियल एरियाज़ में, सुपर मार्केट्स में। क्योंकि उस दिन फेस्टिवल का दिन था इसलिए ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा वो उन जगहों पर गए जहाँ पर लोगों की संख्या ज़्यादा हो सकती है। और देखिए अभी ये इस तरीके का हालत है। हालांकि अब इस पर इजराइल के लोकल्स ने या फिर उनकी IDF ने इजराइल का ये झंडा यहाँ पर लगा दिया है एक प्रतीक के तौर पर कि देखिए इजराइल ने अब इन इलाकों पे अपना दोबारा से अपने कब्जे पे ले लिया है, दोबारा से सिक्योर कर दिया है। लेकिन आप हालत देखिए कि ये सुपरमार्केट की यानी इजराइल की सुपरमार्केट की हालत है। अभी यहाँ पर बहुत कम लोग हैं, 2 से 3 लोग ही आपको मुश्किल से नज़र आ रहे होंगे, सारी जगह ज़्यादातर बंद है। लेकिन ये सूरत हाल इस समय सभी जगहों का है। और अभी देखिए मैं आपको दिखाने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कि क्या इस समय हालत है कि अभी कई जगहों को इसको टारगेट किया, कहा जा रहा है कि अंदर भी घुसकर उन्होंने कई लोगों को वहाँ पर मारा था और कई लोगों को हॉस्टेजेस बना के भी ले गए। लेकिन ये मैं आपको दिखाने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कि sderot के इलाके में जहाँ पर मैं इस समय मौजूद हूँ, सुबह से आपको रिपोर्ट करके अलग अलग जगहों पे स्पॉट्स पे दिखा रहा हूँ कि कौन कौन से ऐसे इलाके थे जहाँ पर ये अटैक किए गए, उन इलाकों में क्या सूरत हाल है, अभी क्या चीज़ें हैं, ये सारी चीज़ें। और ये भी मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ लगातार कि ऐसा नहीं है कि भले ही यहाँ पर ग्राउंड पर IDF ने अपना कब्जा जमा लिया, लेकिन अभी भी हमास के रॉकेट जो हैं इन इलाकों को टारगेट कर रहे हैं। लगातार इन्हीं इलाकों में सबसे ज़्यादा बम्बारमेंट की जा रही है। हर कुछ देर के अंदर इस तरीके के अलर्ट इशू हो जाते हैं। और ये सारी चीज़ें इसलिए बताना ज़रूरी है क्योंकि आपको सूरत हाल पता लगे कि उस समय जिस दिन शनिवार के दिन ये सब इजरायली अपनी छुट्टी मना रहे थे, हॉलीडे पे थे, उस दिन एकाएक किस तरीके से अटैक हुआ, पूरी देश में किस तरीके का पैनिक हुआ, हज़ारों की संख्या में लोग मारे गए, इसके अलावा कई हज़ार लोग घायल हो गए, हॉस्टेजेस बना लिया गया लोगों को। और उसी के बाद इजराइल जैसे पूरी कंट्री एक वॉर में चली गई और अब इजराइल इस वॉर को लड़ रही है हमास के खिलाफ और लगातार ताबड़तोड़ ऑपरेशन भी कर रही है।
Well, we have some latest visuals coming in from Jerusalem where Israeli forces gather around the body of a Palestinian assailant at the scene of a shooting at Hamas Raid checkpoint near Jerusalem. Israel kept pounding Hamas targets in Gaza where entire city blocks lay in rubble. As its soldiers sweeping battle-torn southern towns found more victims 5 days after the Islamist militants' onslaught. The visuals on your screen are coming in from Jerusalem, and the Israeli forces are gathered around the body of a Palestinian assassinate. So they have gotten ahead of one of the terrorists that was included in the onslaught, and this is the day 6 that we are reporting today. And these are the latest visuals that are coming in because there was a shooting at the checkpoint of the Hamas Raid where Israeli forces have shot dead one Palestinian attacker, and they have gathered around the body. The visuals are coming, the latest visuals are coming in from Jerusalem.
Moving on, there have been several social media reports and posts that allege that Israel is once again using phosphorus on civilians. And there are a lot of reports that allege that Israel has been using it time and again. So my colleague Kabir Naqvi has an explainer for you to understand what are these phosphorus bombs exactly and how are they important in the current conflict.
Even as we talk about the Al-Aqsa, we must focus on how Hamas has alleged that Israel has used phosphorus munitions in Gaza. It's pertinent to understand what these termite munitions are and the harm they cause. White phosphorus, as it's often called, is a wax-like chemical substance which smells like garlic. Now it's highly flammable and burns very bright on contact with oxygen. It is also very difficult to extinguish and even burns through metal. Now these phosphorus munitions cause severe burns on skin and can penetrate into the bones and internal organs as well, sometimes even causing death. They aren't classified as a chemical weapon as per the Chemical Weapons Convention, but their use in civilian areas is considered a war crime and is heavily regulated. Now what are phosphorus munitions? Let's take you through, speed you past the exact facts. Wax-like chemical substance with garlic-like odor. These phosphorus munitions ignite and burn fast and bright on contact with oxygen. They're very difficult to extinguish and stick through clothing and skin, can get down to your internal organs, can even burn through metal, thus high risk for civilians. And the use of phosphorus munition in war isn't banned but heavily regulated. In residential areas, it is certainly a war crime. This is what the Hamas is now alleging. It's saying that the Israeli Defense Forces are using a lot of phosphorus munition as well, targeting residential areas, children, women, and the elderly alike. You can take a look at some of those visuals that have come out as well. Many critics of the Hamas saying that this is nothing but a propaganda that the Hamas is now running. Meanwhile, those visuals that have come out of the various attacks that have carried on do show phosphorus munition-like substances falling from the air, more like hell dropping down on the residents below.
Well, we have entered day 6 of the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas, and the situation seems to escalate even further. The main question that arises right now is that why is it difficult to completely eradicate Hamas group? My colleague Kabir Naqvi explains. Listen in.
Another important aspect that we have to focus on is whether Israel can achieve its goal of complete annihilation of the Hamas after the brutal attacks. Many in Israel have called their attacks akin to ISIS, as Hamas targeted children, women, and the old alike. Israel has previously taken a more cautious approach vis-a-vis Hamas, but after the attacks, even liberal voices within Israel are asking for a definitive solution to Hamas. So can Israel eliminate the Hamas? Hamas is using Israeli hostages as a bargaining chip to deter Israel from going out all against them. The problems Israel faces in tackling Hamas need the IDF to not just go in, but to stay in Gaza to make sure all of Hamas's military capabilities are destroyed. This in itself would mean IDF will have to personally scour every neighborhood, encouraging huge humanitarian costs as well. Israel can go in and destroy Hamas's stockpiles, but it's also necessary to make sure Hamas doesn't build weapons again that can harm Israel. Occupation becomes the only solution in this scenario, and this would incur huge administrative costs, deterring Israel to go in and do that. Complete destruction of Gaza to root out Hamas would likely dampen Israel's image in the world, as they could potentially lose the sympathy they've gained in these attacks. Furthermore, Israel's nascent but growing relationship with Arab states can also likely take a hit if Israel looks to completely destroy Hamas without any concessions. So can Israel eliminate Hamas? That's the big question that people are now trying to understand and ask at this point in time.
Well, now it's time for us to shift our focus to some of the national headlines. And Adrika, one horrific incident took place in Bihar, where a northeastern express got derailed, which was going from New Delhi to Guwahati Kamakhya station, and it got derailed in Raghunathpur station in Buxar district of Bihar. We already have reports of 4 people killed and several other injuries. I mean, what are you taking up? What is the latest development on that?
The latest daily that I have in my hand is the Hindu, and the Hindu is reporting that 4 persons were killed and over 60 injured when 6 coaches of the Assam-bound Northeast Superfast Express derailed in Buxar district of Bihar late on Wednesday. The 23-coach train, the number was 12506, left the Anand Vihar terminal in Delhi at 7:40 am on Wednesday and was en route to Tinsukia. The incident occurred at 9:53 pm near the Raghunathpur railway station. A quick response team from the Danapur division of East Railway was rushed to the spot, and the Hindu also has an exclusive that says that speaking to the Hindu, Buxar district magistrate Anshul Agarwal also confirmed the casualties, which were 4 people being killed and over 60 being injured. Due to the derailment, the upline and the downline of the route has been affected, and trains plying on the stretch have been diverted to other routes. So another horrific incident where a train has been derailed. The casualties that come with it right now stands at 4 people who have been dead, who've been reported dead, and over 60 injured. The tally may come out as a completely new number as the incident is investigated back and again. This just happened last night, and it was a late night incident. So the question again is, who is responsible? The question again is, who is going to take onus for the casualties that has been caused?
Definitely. I mean, the incident took place at 9:20 p.m. and 21 coaches are said to be that got derailed. And the reports that we are coming in are just 4 people have already been killed, and they are still investigating, and over more than 60 to 70 people have been injured. So I mean, whenever an incident like this happens, Adrika, my only question is that who is responsible, who is going to hold accountability for something like this? That we saw what happened in Odisha, we saw how the train got derailed and how the massive destruction it caused, whether it's infrastructural damage and the loss of lives that we're talking about. And the visuals on your screen, it seems that the train got completely derailed. Investigation needs to be done on what happened. What was there a technical fault in the train? Was the train tracks are not being maintained? And the government needs to come out and needs to give explanation for this, because this has happened in Buxar district of Bihar. So the government really needs to answer the question, because 4 people are already killed, and you know, several trains have stranded in Patna station. And incident like this, I mean, Adrika, you know, it's just not the infrastructural damage that we're talking about, it's about the accountability of the government, accountability of the authorities. Who is going to respond to the situation? Who is going to come ahead and you know, take accountability that why this happened, and the lives that are being lost in this train accident is something that I don't think so that any authority would ever be able to compensate. So that is the latest that we have on the Bihar train accident case. The details are will yet to follow. More people, how many people are injured, what is the damage that has exactly happened, Adrika, is something that you know, the details we have to.
Investigations are underway. We can only hope and pray that there are not a lot of casualties. Right now the number stands at 4 and over 60 being injured. All we can do is just wait for the updates.
Well, that's a wrap on the show. That's all the time we have for you. But don't go anywhere. Stay tuned for all the latest headlines and all the top stories of the day and latest updates on the ongoing Israel and Hamas conflict. Stay tuned and keep watching News9 Live.
With all this gear, you must be wondering if I'm climbing a mountain. Well, let me give you a wider look of this place. This is Asia's largest mountain of shame.
A mountain of waste, almost the height of the Qutub Minar.
When you enter capital cities of some of the biggest countries in the world, you don't have 3 garbage mountains waiting to welcome you, depending on whichever side of the city you enter from.
The thing is that a lot of times we talk about landfills only when there's a fire at the landfill. You need to understand that a landfill is at fire almost throughout the year. It's only when the firefighters are not able to douse the fire is when it